Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Renew You Students YouTube channel. We've been going through the book of Mark in order to see what is this gospel, this good news that Mark is trying to say about Jesus. And we are learning that there is who Jesus is and what we are supposed to do, or how are we supposed to respond to us. And in our previous lesson, we talked about how not only did he teach his disciples, but he also sent them out in order to be able to share this good news, this gospel, and do the same miracles that Jesus did. But now we're going to find ourselves in kind of a deja vu moment in which the disciples are again in some stressful situation and Jesus comes to the rescue.
So this one is going to sound very familiar to another story where the disciples get into a boat and they're starting to go across the lake. And this time, though, Jesus isn't with them. He had gone up after some ministry, and he went up to a mountain by himself just to have some moments alone to pray. And so the disciples are in this boat crossing across the sea, and a storm picks up again. And so they are having a really hard time struggling with the storm because the storm was against them. So they weren't being able to really go anywhere. They were just constantly rowing and things and kind of just staying in the same spot because the wind was against them. And Jesus had gotten done praying, and he started to walk across the lake, literally just get on the water, and he just started walking across the lake. And he was going to go to the other side where they were all going to meet up again. But when he saw them struggling, he kind of walked a little bit closer to them, and they started freaking out because obviously they're thinking this is a ghost or something like that, and it's walking on water because no humans walk on water. And when Jesus saw that they were freaking out about all of this, he then decided to get into the boat with them, and he just speaks to them and saying, "It's okay, it's me." And so as soon as he got into the boat, the storm kind of just stopped, and they were just freaking out because they're like, wow, that was some crazy stuff that just happened. And they weren't fully understanding everything that had taken place. And so, but it was just a really bizarre moment for them. But Jesus clearly knew what he was doing.
Yeah. So here in this story, it's interesting because we find first that Jesus puts himself apart from the crowd. He takes this time alone, really, to pray to God. And who Jesus is really someone who is connected, who seeks the Father in his own time. Something that we should also realize that is quite important for our ministries or for who we are, is really praying to God, because that is where the sense of purpose, where the ideas and dreams that we are supposed to be having, that is when God can really talk to us about those things. But then the disciples go out by themselves, and we find ourselves in a funny situation, because when Jesus actually was walking on water to cross the sea, the Bible says that he didn't even mean to actually stop by and say, "Hey guys, it's me, Jesus." He was just going to go by ourselves. But it really was until the disciples started freaking out because they thought he was a ghost. Who in the world is over here on the water in the middle of a storm? I think that really shows about how Jesus knew what he was supposed to be doing. Jesus knew where he was going to go, and he wasn't worried about the disciples at this moment. He wasn't worried that they were, in this storm, that a lot of crazy things was happening. The ones who were worried, the ones who were freaking out, were the disciples themselves. And this is two things that I would just like to mention. One is that we shouldn't be worried if Jesus isn't worried, if God isn't worried. He is in control about the many things, and he knows what's going to happen to us. So if Jesus isn't worried, we shouldn't be worried in a situation. And the second thing is that the disciples, they were some of the people that had the hardest time believing who Jesus was. This is the second time that they're in the middle of a storm, that Jesus is there, and they're freaking out about the storm. And Jesus just like appears and essentially rescues them. But they still couldn't believe who Jesus was. And so the same can happen to us. The same is that even though Jesus may be doing miracles in our life, Jesus may be protecting us and helping us out in every step of the way, it may be hard to really trust and believe and have faith in Jesus. And that's okay. We all end up struggling with that, even in the middle of the storm where it's really hard to focus, where the problems of life just really start kind of overwhelming. But Jesus is there. And, it is up to us whether or not we want to be able to accept him, whether we want to be able to believe in him.
And so we're going to continue talking about this a little bit more next week, and just talking about how we still need to be able to see Jesus for who he is, because who he is definitely impacts who we are, and how we live our lives because of him. And so we'll pick this up next week and continue on, and we will see you then.
See you.